This oven-baked Italian flatbread is related to pizza. Hi, I'm Rebecca Brayton and welcome to WatchMojo.com. And today, baker Marc-Andre Cyr is going to show us how to make a traditional focaccia.
These are the ingredients you'll be using. Start with 3 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of dry yeast, 2 teaspoons of sea salt, 2 cups of room temperature water, 1/4 cup of olive oil. For the garnish, we're gonna have fresh rosemary, fleur de sel, cornmeal to put under the dough, and some freshly cracked pepper. So we'll start by combining all our dry ingredients, the yeast into the flour, sea salt, mix it all in well, make sure the yeast is spread out everywhere as well as the salt. You can use your hands or you can start with a wooden spoon. Once that's all combined, we'll add our liquids. Start with the water, then the oil. Now this is the messy part, we start mixing. It's good to keep a bit of extra water and a bit of flour on hand. In this case, it's a little wet, so we'll be adding some flour. At this point, once the dough starts to hold together, you'll want to take it out of the bowl and start the full kneading process. It's always a matter of flattening the dough, rolling it, flipping it over. This kneading technique applies to any sort of bread dough. We could be making, white dough, brown dough, rye bread, anything that has yeast in it and flour. So you'll want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. After about 10-12 minutes of kneading the dough, you want to prepare your bowl, some oil. This is so the dough can rest and rise. The oil will keep it from sticking to the sides, so it'll puff up nicely. So just turn it a couple of times. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Notice how it's much smoother than when we began 12 minutes ago. Shape it into a ball, flip it over, pinch the edges, bring it together, then put that seam on the underside. Put it in a bowl, put a dishcloth over the bowl or some plastic wrap, and let it sit for at least an hour until it's doubled in bulk. Find a warm, damp spot in the house. A good spot is either above your clothes dryer or on top of the fridge in the kitchen. So now our dough has doubled in bulk. We're going to need to pour it out onto a floured work surface so we can flatten it and then put it onto the baking sheet. So it's important to press down but not stretch the dough. You want to press it down and gently get it to the size and shape you want. So now our oven's hot, 425 degrees. Our dough's been stretched out, pulled to the size we want so it fits in our baking sheet. We're going to prepare the sheet with a bit of parchment paper. Now the cornmeal at the bottom helps give it a bit of crunch, to simulate a bit of if you were cooking it directly on a pizza stone. So I'm going to transfer the dough. Stretch it a little, but always very gently press it to cover your sheet. Now it's ready to garnish. This is where you do the signature pockmarks of the focaccia. Now this is fleur de sel, which is a really nice delicate salt. Rock salt could also be used. Now the freshly cracked pepper is generally an optional ingredient, but I really like a fresh cracked pepper on there. Now the rosemary. Some people like a lot of it, some like a little bit. Other herbs could be used. You can put fresh basil on here, but the basil leaves might crisp a little too much in the oven. But you can put thyme, oregano. Now this baby's ready to bake. We're gonna put it in there for 15 to 20 minutes. After 15 minutes, take a look. If it starts to get nice and golden and it puffs up nicely, it's ready. And then you can choose to go darker. Depends on herbs you've used. In the case of rosemary, 20 minutes should be good. The top is starting to color. We'll take it out before it dries out too much.
One nice way of serving the focaccia is with a homemade bruschetta, or you can drizzle it with balsamic vinegar and olive oil for a perfect pairing.